repetition, and they create a headline. And the headline pretty much, even if the person doesn't read the article, the headline of that media content does the work that is intended to do. So the Western world is very efficient when it comes to getting information to the people, the kind of information they want, which we call propaganda. They're very efficient when it comes to getting information to people. Most of 90% of the information they actually give to people is in the headlines. It's not in the actual article itself. Most people don't read the article itself. Most people just read the headline, and if you read that headline a couple of times over time and again, it goes into your subconscious memory, your non-dynamic memory, and your non-dynamic memory is always like it always activates when you least expect it. That's the thing about your non-dynamic memory. It activates when you find yourself in situations that you might not even know, but there's the feeling. It's responsive to emotion. Your non-dynamic memory is responsive to emotion. Your subconscious is responsive to emotion. So like you might find yourself in a position where that emotion will manifest, and then you would pull that information from your subconscious memory. Sorry guys, I have a phone call. I'm gonna mute my mic, but I'll be back right 1 second. Programming people and spreading the information, like the select broadcasted information that they wish. They're constantly sending it in small parcels of called headlines, right? Most people, we don't read the article, but we read the headline. So the West they've mastered the art of putting parcels of information that can generate a thought in your mind. And once you pick up that parcel of information, what happens is you're able to, formulate a subconscious, thought about that later when you find yourself in an emotional situation, or when there is an emotional correlation with that particular event. It now becomes dynamic. So the subconscious memory is just the non-dynamic part of your mind. The subconscious realm is just the non-dynamic, meaning the non-active, or the state of, or the part of your mind that is in inertia. And this inertia part of your mind, it is triggered mostly by emotion. It's mostly controlled by emotions. It's not controlled by dynamic action or conscious action. The subconscious world is controlled by mostly emotion. So whenever there is an emotion, and you need a way to express that emotion, and you don't have anything currently in your mind, you pull it from your non-dynamic memory or your subconscious realm. So the Western world is very good at depositing information into people's subconscious memory. They select the type of information they wish, and then they deposit it into small parcels that people don't notice. We don't read full articles, but we read headlines. And because we read just the headlines, we end up in a situation where we are being fed information like an IV, or how like a drip feed information. The information is being drip fed into us, and we don't really notice that we've been hijacked until there's been enough in IV into our system where it starts to govern the way we think or the way we see the reality. And most of what the Western world does is it's about governing the perception of the people, governing perception. So when you govern perception, you basically create an artificial reality or verisimilitude or world, and you take the perception of that person and you affix that perception to that world that you've created. And that person can operate simultaneously in the real world, subconsciously, and interact with the information you create consciously. So I'm going to be pausing right about here. I'm going to begin with our greeting, and then we will begin the conversation. I'll let our brother chime in since he's in the speaker room here. I'm going to pause right here, begin the greeting, introduction, and then we will start officially. So, True Revolution. The title is called True Revolution, Diverging the African's Future. The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. Positive energy and creation energy to all of you here. And hopefully more people will show up. If not, we will have this discussion again in the future, and that way that we can, benefit from it. I'll ask Sister Yancy Abuka to record if she can do like a recording of this message for those who miss it. Maybe we can share it, kind of. I don't think you can record on this, but you can use the Otter app to record it. So, so the discussion is True Revolution, diverging the African's future from the path of our future, from the path of the Eurasians. Why have we come to this conclusion? Why do we want to diverge? Why do we want to change the course of our destiny? Why do we want to take the shape of our own destiny versus just following the destiny that the Eurasian have in mind? Globalization, one world government, the elites, the Western elites governing, and Africans serving as a conduit for resource, where we provide the resource for them, we provide the culture for them, we provide intelligence for them, we provide the things that they need, and they are the one who implement those things. They are the ones who make the discoveries. They are the one who charter the course of history, or her story, or our story, the story of the planet. They charter the course. We, as the people, we Africans, we serve as resource bodies to them. We give them intelligence, we give them culture, we give them civilization, we give them emotional support, we give them emotional validation. We even give them racial, rebreeding. We breed with them, we do everything with them, but they are allowed to chart the course of the universe. They are allowed to define every life on this planet Earth the way they choose. They are allowed to govern the social, create the social structure, create the spiritual structure, create the intellectual structure, create the political structure, and create the economical structure. So they are able to govern the world in the 5 dimensions of understanding, which is spiritual, social, intellectual, economical, and political. They master the world in those 5 dimensions. We serve as the supporting, their allies. We serve them. They chart the course. They go into space. They go to other planets, and we just serve them as this body of helping them achieve their ultimate purpose in the universe, which is to become the most powerful group in the universe, to become the gods of the universe, so to speak. So, how do we Africans choose otherwise? How do we diverge from everything I've just said? That's the question on today's menu. And I'm going to let Brother Kabbalah chime in and begin his, just giving us his thoughts on this. And I'm going to mute my mic and listen. Okay, brother. Welcome. Positive energy and creation energy to you.
Peace and power, brother. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you. The topic is very great. The conversation is essential in terms of the time at which we find ourselves today as a human family. We need this kind of conversation, and we also need to bring more people in these kind of conversations in order to enlighten the minds of many people to understand the path that we as African people are supposed to choose at this particular moment, because it has been quite a long time since the post-independence period in Africa, whereby we have been given, recipes of development, progress, or whatever else that suited the Western world to sell to the African, and we have been the markets of the Western world, and we are still in that trajectory of following whatever they bring on the plates with the propaganda to develop Africa, with the propaganda built around the subjects of African development, but in reality, which is all about African to serve them, as you have mentioned earlier on. So this kind of topic is very important, because we are particularly at that moment whereby we need to have new mindsets, we need to have new energy in Africa, and most importantly, new people with different understanding, in order to obviously begin doing something different for what we expect the future of Africa to become. If we don't manage to create a new class of leaders who think differently in Africa or in African communities worldwide, we cannot succeed for the rest of the 21st century. So the question, or the topic actually, because I didn't get a question, but I think the topic, which is the true revolution that requires diverging, from the Western world. I don't know if I've paraphrased it correctly. First thing that I want to mention is that, revolution or a rebellion, that be violent or non-violent, is always necessary for any process of social change. The reason why we're even talking about revolutions, because nothing seems to make sense to us as African people, and in most cases, many of us have come to realize that we are in a moment where at a time where we live in a system of oppression, where the masses are being oppressed by the minority or the elites, even though the same system is called a democratic system that guarantees the rule of the masses and the protection of the minority. But the reality of the system itself is different from what it stands in terms of its theory. So we are in the system whereby the masses are oppressed and exploited, and the minority who are member of the elite are the ones who are getting more and more that the masses produce. So in these conditions, the only thing that can change this reality is revolution. Because even when you look back in some major revolutions that have happened in the world, were born out of the conditions such as this, the current conditions, where the masses are oppressed and they are disenfranchised in a way that people cannot cope with their lives anymore. And then it gets to the point where people can never accept the reality and have to protest, or they have to stand up and change the status quo. It's already happening as we're speaking now. For example, in Brazil, it's one of the countries where now poor people are more, are more and more oppressed, and there are many of them, and the society is becoming so dangerous in such a way that rich people are really uncomfortable to drive in their communities safely. And some of the people who have more money, they opt to travel, in helicopters instead of using their cars in a community. So, in other words, it's to say that the time is coming whereby rich people cannot live comfortably amongst poor people around them. And it will be even difficult to keep poor people in their areas, in their environments of poor people, because even the water, even the Mediterranean water, even the world cannot return poor people in their, in their conditions, because the first law of nature is self-preservation. And every people or every creature has been created with the power to do whatever it takes to preserve its life or her life, whatever the case might be. So that's what we are actually witnessing now. However, for this to bear productive fruits, for this to become more productive or to come up with sustainable results, this revolution or whatever tendency that people have now must well be guided. It has to be well guided so that it results in a productive and sustainable results that can bring a fundamental change to our society. But if it happens in a sense of, in a way, or in a riots manner, or in a chaotic way, or in what we can otherwise even call in mobocracy manner, it will never gonna bear fruits, because the same elites is still powerful in terms of what it controls: weapons, economy, influence, and whatever else. So this kind of program is very important, that we're providing maybe guidelines and knowledge to the African people, especially to the young ones, because Africa is about 60 or 70% young people under the age of 25. So we need to be there for them, to provide this kind of knowledge and understanding that will really help them to understand where we are supposed to put our, our foots, or actually in which direction we are supposed to go in our endeavor of changing the society or of bringing the revolution. So now diverging, that is actually essential, because fundamentally, the reality is African people are the first creatures that we brought on this earth. There are many reasons that can explain that. And what I can say, the reality is that other people have come from Africa, but not other way around. So originally we are one person or one people. We should be living as one people, unity. However, people have lived, in different environment, which has conditioned their understanding of life, their perception of life, which has coded the genetic memory in a sense that we have imagined as a different people. Therefore, whatever ways that we approach to solve our problems cannot be the same, because when we look on the other side, the only way they have to solve the problems, whatever problems that people face, is the way of violence. And on our side as well, we cannot obviously use the same way. When I'm talking about violence, I'm talking about violence against the nature itself, violence against the nature, violence against the environment, violence against the universe. While we are depending on the nature, we are dependent on the environment, we are dependent on our universe, but we, on the other side, I'm talking precisely on the side of Eurasian people, are the people who have built their culture or their so-called civilization on a violent manner against the environment. So we cannot go through the same path, even though we are envying certain things that we think are very, very essential that they possess right now. We should be able to forge a different way in order to embark in in the status that's or in a dynamic that would change the reality of African people worldwide. So I am all for the title. We need a revolution, but we need to diverge that revolution in African perspective. And the mic back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. That was excellent. Well said. Sister Yancy Avoka, you don't have to remain in the audience. You can join as well. You can engage if you wish to. I think the others, they can come when they decide to. But I have a question for the brother here. So since I've gone through a lot of revolutions, and there was the American Revolution. I did learn about that in school. I learned about the French Revolution. Unfortunately, I was forced to learn about it. I learned about the revolution of the Romans, and several. I learned about the revolution of the Oranges, or the Romanian Revolution as well. So I've learned about quite a few revolutions over the years. And for me, one thing I've always saw that certain revolutions have done was always put the elites back on top, because I've always thought of revolution as an instantaneous transformation, or an instantaneous shift in the environment of the people that live in that the society. There's an instantaneous shift inside that society. I've always viewed revolution as that, maybe because of the way I've always seen it. Whenever there was armed revolution or cultural revolution, there was this instantaneous shift that occurred, and kind of like what was supposed to be a trend, but then became a permanent condition. That's how I've always saw revolution. Now, one thing about most revolutions I've studied, the elites always end up back on top. So, the American Revolution, for example, they had been fighting to, to be basically free from the yoke of the Queen, right? And the British making them into a vassal, and they wanted independence. And after they freed themselves, then they created the American elite structure, which was the Constitution, then the elites, the classes, the 1%, the capitalistic economy was created. And today, here we are in the belly of this product, the product of that revolution that happened about so and so years ago. Romania, same thing. The pastor stood up and said, "We want bread. We want bread. We want bread." And just one word triggered a revolution. And when the revolution was over, the ministers were dead. The president and his wife had been executed. The country had gone for a while, and then they ended up right back with the elites on top. The heroes were those heroes who started the revolution. They all were dismissed when the time came, and those people who took the power were back on top. And France, same thing. They overthrew the elites to put another group of elites, and it has always seemed to me that the Romans was the same thing. So revolution, the elites always seem to manage to gain control of a revolution. And what is the fundamental reason the elites always gain control of a revolution every time a revolution occurs? I want to ask you your opinion first before I contribute to that. But brother or sister Yancy Abuka, is up to either of you. What is the fundamental reason that the elites always gain control after the revolution has been served and they reinstall themselves in the new regime? Can you please contribute?
For sure. Thank you for the question. I just want to maybe assist with Sister Nyasabuka in case you want to join. She can click on the hand. There should be a small hand on a screen. If she clicks on that, you'll be able to have a notification and you can. Well, okay, I think that's great. So my perspective of why the elites always get back on top or on its position after the revolution. Well, there might be many reasons related to that, but maybe let me state maybe one or two reasons that I think have been the contributing factors. One that I think is firstly the system. even in South Africa, or in Africa actually, we had recently what, actually let me say in Africa around 2011, 2010, we had what the Western media called revolution. In other words, it was called the Arab Spring, where, a number of Arab nations were in an unrest situation, where head of states were overthrown and stuff like that. But what I'm always saying to people, and I've actually explained that extensively in our upcoming book of The Free-Minded for the training purposes, is that changing the head of state is not changing the regime. And also changing the regime does not imply changing the system. So once you do a revolution that is aiming about changing the faces that were on the mainstream, and to replace them with other new faces, but you don't change the system, you're still gonna get the very same results. And let me emphasize here more, particularly to the African struggle that some people have also called revolution. As you mentioned yourself, some of our revolutionaries in Africa, they are the main reason why actually people out to go for revolutions because of oppression. And when people are oppressed, they have two ways to escape the oppression. One way is to either fight the oppression, the oppressive system. The other way is to join the oppressive system. So now, when people join the oppressive system, the system is still going to be there, even though the faces have changed. But when people want really a true revolution, which is still yet to be seen in the world, it will be aiming fundamentally about changing the system that was, functioning. It's not about changing the name, but changing the system. For example, in France, they came up with that idea of fraternity, liberty, and what was it? Okay. It was liberty, fraternity, and I think also, democracy, something like that. Yet, as you said, the same elites got back, in the power, because it was not mainly about changing fundamentally the system, the way the society functioned, but what they changed was maybe the labels and stuff. So that's what I'm thinking can be the first reason why the elites get back to power, because once you change the structure, there's no way that the same small group of people who have been dominating the society will be getting back to their position. Once you change this structure, once you your struggle is aiming about changing the whole structure and the system that is governing the society. And I can actually even take it to some levels. People get into revolution because maybe, for example, they don't have employment, they don't have incomes, they don't have job. But that is not really the aim of true revolution, because once you match or you begin a movement based on what you don't have in a way of food or employment and stuff like that, in other words, it implies that you are demanding those things, to be provided, for you, maybe by other people. So the very same person that can provide job, employment or income or whatever, housing to you as a result of your revolution, is able also to take away what he has provided for you. So the true revolution should be really aiming at the people at the grassroots seizing the power. And that is something that I myself not noticed actually in a couple of revolutionaries or revolution movements that I've actually started as well. And the other reason that I can explain, that was just the first reason, as I said, which is actually the system didn't change, but actually, just the labels or the faces, at the leadership position. So, the other reason as well, particularly to the ancient revolutions, such as the French Revolution, the Shah Revolution, even American Revolution, we can look at that period as a period where information was not as much as is popular today. And you may even remember during that time, many people were even prevented to read. Reading was something that was not really encouraged among the common people. Therefore, people will always want to have a leader before they embark in certain activities. They will always want to have somebody to guide them, to show them the way, to lead them to where they believe their future is located. So, and that also, unwillingly or willingly, by you put your faith or your trust into somebody who leads you into a group of elites, it creates the very same structure that you were protesting against, which was oppressive structure, over your life. And so it can always return to that fundamental structure. So what I'm trying to say is that people, by being ignorant in the past, have maintained the system whereby they will always want somebody to be, to lead them and show them the way. But life is not like that, Life is not like that. I think we are now in an information age where only those who choose to be ignorant then remain ignorant. So we are all supposed to be involved and to be in charge of our lives in terms of choosing what kind of policies that govern our lives, be participant in all those major decisions that affects our life on a daily basis. Because even your baby, when you have a baby, when she's maybe, he is 1 year, he wants your hand to hold him so that he can walk. But once the baby firmly, is able to walk by himself or herself, he will obviously, he is no longer going to want you to hold his hand to walk with him. He's going to walk by himself. So I think we are now in a moment where the human family should attain the maturity and the wisdom to understand at from people from all walks of life should be able to understand the vision and the destiny, or actually where they want to go with their lives, and what it takes to obviously get to that point. So let me stop here to also allow you to obviously comment on that, as well as the Queen Yesabukwa. All right, thanks so much.
Okay, let me respond to you, then that way sister I will ask her the same question, she will give her take on it, okay? So I noticed some of the key points you were talking about was, the aim of the revolution will be, for people to, the grassroots to actually, a true revolution would be the grassroots being in charge. That's what, you articulated. And, how that a system, just because you change a party or a regime, the system itself, if the system is meant to create the same, repeat the same process, then the system will do what it's supposed to do, and those who are functioning in that system will do what the system is set to do. And then the elites, for some reason, almost all revolutions are started by the grassroots. You talk about the discontent, people being hunger, and they're requesting some to be fed, and even in their own nations, they wish their nations to do the right thing, to feed them and clothe them and do the things for them. And this is a grassroots origin of these revolutions, but somehow the elites always usurp the revolution. They always seem to usurp, and it's said by people ignorant. They allow their disposition towards ignorance and wanting to put their faith in someone else, and this person expecting this person to lead, and they end up back into the cage if the person is not all the same beliefs. If the person beliefs can be corrupted or changed, then eventually the grassroots revolution will have just delayed itself to another generation for them to again rebel. Now, I absolutely agree with you on everything you said. From what you're saying here about Africans, we've had several revolutions. Actually, we've had plenty of revolution. And, hold on 1 second, please. Back again in 2021 to talk about revolution, diverging our path from the path that is, that we're on right now. We're on this path of globalism, this great reset, this one world. All these structures, these massive systems are set up in the world right now. Huge systems. They're all set up. And we're at this point now where these systems are crushing us, or these systems are producing people, and these people are coming out and creating something that people need to rebel against, or people need to revolt against. So, and this system, fundamentally what it does is it makes the masses ignorant, which is what I started out by talking about information and headline. So, we'll let Sister Yancy Aboka answer, and then I will go ahead and give my own answer. But Sister Yancy Aboka, the question is the same for you. Why has the elites always manage to end up on top, whether it be in Africa or it be in Eurasia or it be in Asia? Why do the elites always usurp a grassroots revolution, a revolution that started out with the grassroots, but then the elites always usurp it, end up back on top, create the same system, and before you know it, 100 years later, people have to revolt against. What are your thoughts on that?
Thanks, my brothers. This is a very sensitive question, but it needs to be addressed, So, looking at why the elites always, end up in the top when we've had, the revolution, but they end up in the top. So, how are the elites constructed? How do they end up being elite? You see, if you want to control the people, you create the institutions that can absorb all the people. And then when you create those institutions, you fund those institutions. And when you are funding those institutions, the people in those institutions, they become loyal to you. And when they become loyal to you, anything you say, they will acquiesce with it. And remember, these institutions, they are meant to be ruled by few people at the top, and then they create another class of people who have to maintain those institutions. They make sure that those institutions are maintained according to the standards of the elites. And then these institutions, the people at the bottom where we find ourselves, it happens that we are so dependent in those institutions. They can create, the institutions healthcare institutions, we find ourselves relying on them. They can create education institutions, we find ourselves in them. In Africa, you see it's all the British education system, French education system, in America, in wherever we find ourselves, the institutions, we don't own the institutions, they are owned by the Eurasians, and then the hospitals, the banking systems, none of them are indigenous from Africa. So by default, we, the majority, we find ourselves our life, the way we are more it's we were sucked up into this thing and we didn't see this thing coming. So we end up, even if we destroy everything, we say we want to cause the revolution, we want to take some few people from the office, we want to burn houses, burn the businesses. But these businesses at the top level, they have a structure. They have a structure. They can be rebuilt anytime. The elites can come up together and say, we can rebuild this thing, because they already have the blueprint of these institutions. These institutions can be franchised everywhere. And since the people who are supposed to serve these institutions are the majority, but these people also, they can't do without these institutions because they feel that is how they need to, that is what is enhances their life. Like when it comes to where Africa we find ourselves, we find even when it comes to food, the majority of the supply chain are owned by the elite, and when we find like even the housing institutions, we find like it's actually the elites who own them, and then there's few people who manage them, like we can call them like maybe the middle class or the managers or whatever and stuff like that. The job industry itself is classified in a way that you have to go through them, to get a job. And where are you going to get a job? The institutions that they've created. You don't have a say to change the laws of that institutions. You have to obey the laws of that institution. So we find ourselves at a very disadvantaged point as Africans because none of those institutions belong to us. And even if we say we want to create a revolution, if the majority haven't actually started creating our institutions that can counter their institutions, so that when we want to create a revolution, we have something already that is going to support us. We have like food, raiment, shelter is already covered by our own. Like we have already these institutions. So when we say we want to destroy the institution, we don't like the elites. We don't want anything to do with them. But if we don't have something for our own as Africans, so that when we go after them, we can clean out and nothing is gonna affect us because we already have a system, already have institutions that take care of us. Everything is flowing, whether there is a Eurasian systems or not. So like we are independent. So with that, we find ourselves like as Africans, yes, we are not happy with what is happening. We are not happy at all. But at the end of the day, we don't have those things that actually will take care of us. We don't have the institutions. So yes, we can riot and do all these things. But at the end of the day, we're gonna start asking like, where am I gonna get my food? Which hospitals am I gonna go to? What schools do I go to? What about the water? How am I gonna drink water? And all these things. So I feel that is where the elites keep going on top, because they created the system already, which can run generation to generations.
Pause 1 second. Let me tell Bella.
Yeah, so even if, even if right now we say we are not happy at all as Africans, we are not going to be able to remove all these things, not unless we start training our people on how to create the institutions, like empower our people to start creating side institutions which are organically ours as Africans, and we run them. We run them, because when you look at Africans, we don't create the class systems. We had a different way of sharing things here and there, but when it comes to class systems is what like the Eurasian do, and by default we've adopted that, and it keeps putting pressure, because when we come from a society where we practice the Ubuntu, knowledge is circulating, what is yours is mine is yours, and stuff like that, from that kind, and then we get into a Eurasian one, where like only one person needs to control billions of people, or like if I have this business, you all need to depend on this business and stuff, and I'm only the one who need to supply you this and this. For us, our nature as Africans is gonna feel like we are so, if somebody's like choking us, And when the system continues putting us into this control, of course we're gonna erupt. Our emotions gonna be jacked up, and we're gonna feel like we need to destroy everything. But we're gonna destroy, but we don't have something to fall into. It's like you wanna burn the house, but where are you gonna come to sleep? I'm not saying that we need to spare what the construct that they've done, but we have to have a strong preparation. We can say in the 10 years, what we need to do, we need to see what institutions, categories of institutions that we need to create that can be duplicated around Africa. Let's say from food industry, food is very essential, how to, our information is passed to our people. So, meaning we need institutions of knowledge and skill building, and then we say, okay, our people need to be healed. Then we need to create institutions that heal our people that are solely independent, and then we say our people will need somewhere to sleep and stuff like that. We need to create also the military to protect our people, which is solely independent without any Eurasian influence. Then when we start becoming stronger, then we can go. So for me, I say the reason as to why the elites have an upper hand, because they already own the institutions, the people, we are dependent on those institutions. So no matter how many noises we're gonna make out here, how many videos we can make that we are not happy, we don't own institutions, and that's what makes them on top. Not unless we create the lower class, the majority, to be the elites, elites in so many things, like owning these things, and then we can counter them. It doesn't matter whether these are Eurasians. If Africa understands this from this level, then we can easily become on top once we start owning ourselves. That's all I say.
Okay, thank you for that, sister. The sister focused on the institution. She was hammering on the institution part about why the elites always seem to usurp the revolution, and they always get back on top because they own the institutions, or they are very knowledgeable in institutions, and they know how to manipulate the institutions to serve their will and their direction. So, and because we are all included in the institution, because we live by the institutions and function in the institution, is why we find ourselves. But again, that's what Brother Kabbalah said. You see, this is how similar Africans are, really. This is why I advise Africans to never say, I already know, or I know. Even if you know something, right? Just if you listen to it fully, you're going to get a different perspective, because there's always 360 dimensional perspective of the same thing, right? But that 360 dimension gives you a whole unified perspective. Now, Brother Kabbalah talks about the system. You can change the regime, you don't change the system, then you have the same problem, right? He talks about the grassroots should lead the revolution. But, when they get ignorant and complacent and they allow the elites to, take care of it, then they put their faith and trust in the elites take over. And Sister Yancy Abuka said the exact same thing about the elites having knowledge of the institutions, and the elites being able to gain control of the institution, because why? They fund the institutions, or, like they place themselves as they create dependency, or the institution becomes dependent on them. They become donors and funders of the institutions, and then those who are placed in the hierarchy of the institutions, those people become their servant, because he who feeds you controls you. But most people don't realize that. We all often use this in a sense of Africa, but you can say CNN, for example. You can take CNN, right? The director of CNN is being fed by someone else, so that person controls them. The journalist is being fed by CNN, so the person above them controls them. So he who feeds you controls you. That can be really in a micro, macro, it can be 360 dimension of understanding. I do strongly advise Africans of all walks of life to never say, I know but always seek to gain other perspective. Now, my contribution to what was said was why the elites always come is basically what both of you said. And the only thing I can really add different to that is, now, the reason institutions are the way they are, because people, we take into account that the society is different, diverse. Oftentimes, the word society has to do with diversity. It's when we live in a tribal system, then there is a lack of diversity. It's often just people of the same tribe speaking the same language, and there's lack of diversity in that. But whenever it's a society, it often has to do with, diverse groups of people existing there, and, the institution serves as the unifying force amongst these people. Now, when we look at what unifies people, in essence, is one will be law, and everybody being treated the same under the law is what unifies people sometimes. What everybody being able to, earn work in that society and, work to their best. People being able to do their ability through their own effort, exertion of their self, their ability, are able to move up in that society. It's called the meritocracy system, right? Where people are able to move up in the society. Then, I think other systems where some fundamental things people want to be dependent on the state, for the state to provide those things, right? So I think society overall, people have certain things where the law, everybody's unpunishable by the law. Then meritocracy, people want meritocracy in their society, and people want certain things to be provided by the government, or the government should serve a certain function. But usually things erode as time passes, right? The government themselves, they often, what we call the elites, these people often decide, hey, my own growth, my own personal well-being, and my own personal wealth, it trumps the collective. And then they begin saturating themselves with their own personal well-being. They begin to become products of power. Basically, products of power mean that they become governed by the lust for power, or the lust for fame, or the lust for renown, or individualistic sense of self. They become governed by the individualistic nature that's in them, and then eventually it trickles back down. So we have human nature and we have systemic nature. So now my question for you guys now is, before we will talk more about this, but my question for you guys is, Brother Kabbalah, what is the difference between a riot and a revolution? Rioting and revolution. What is that? Please start.
All right. Thank you so much, brother. As I was saying before, let's say the basic common thing between a riot and the revolution is actually they all start from one thing. They are all triggered by one thing, which is actually basically the frustration that is born out of maybe lack of food, lack of employment, lack of necessary resources that people need in order to survive. When people faced with those kind of lacks, eventually it's get to a point where people are frustrated, and the next thing is a movement, either riot or revolution. However, the difference now is now in the process of the two things, because sometimes revolution can be also violent, sometimes can be non-violent. Riot sometimes is also violent. Most of case riot is violent. We can call it, in other ways, we call it mobocracy, where a group of mob, coming there and do all those kind of riots and stuff like that. So The difference, however, lies in the process, as I said, because a revolution is supposed to be led by a vision. However, the riots or mobocracy is always led by anger and frustration that people have for whatever they don't have or whatever they are dispossessed with, you know. In other words, frustration and anger is always the trigger of any movement that aims to change the status quo in the society. However, the frustration is not supposed to lead the movement. The movement should be led by the vision. So when you leave that frustration now, when you leave the frustration to be the leader of your movement, it means everything that you do in the spectrum of that movement is triggered and lead and controlled by your frustration and anger. That becomes a riot, in a sense that you will be burning down the shops, you'll be burning down the cars, you'll be, causing a lot of damage to other people who are actually related to you, because you are working in a very uncontrolled manner. However, if your frustration now, by you getting frustrated, I'm always saying to people that there's no way that a normal functioning black man, by understanding his history, by learning how he was dehumanized by, Caucasian people, will feel happy. He will definitely feel hungry and, will feel angry and frustrated. However, what he decides to do with that frustration is the most important thing. It's normal for you to feel frustrated, but don't let the frustration to guide your steps towards any change that you want to achieve, because in that case you will embark in mobocratic activities or violent activities that cannot bear fundamental or sustainable fruits to what you are looking for. So now, to be more brief in my response to give time to others, riot is actually visionless movement whereby people, by being frustrated, they go down the streets and start burning cars, attacking people randomly and stuff like that. However, a true revolution is guided by the vision. Firstly, people have to understand what they lack and the reasons that have caused the impairments or whatever situation they are facing. And then people have to design a strategy to achieve that, the goal which they want to achieve, to change the reality. That's where education comes to play. And now the vision of what the goals or the objectives that people have set for themselves will be able to guide the people in that revolutionary movement. And that revolution is not necessarily supposed to be even on streets, because people who understand, especially in this particular moment, it was necessary in the past for people to march on streets, for the purpose of revolution. But today, it does not even require for people to go down the streets to do the revolution. Instead of burning cars, you will think on how you can build yours and sell. In terms of burning shops, you'll be thinking in terms of how you can now, build your own shops and then sell to your own people and provide to yourself whatever other people have pretended to provide to you. That is where the revolution comes, because revolution should be aiming at objective, at achieving some noble objectives, and should be guided by the vision, but not by frustration and anger. So for me, that is a fundamental difference that I find between riots and revolution. But obviously, I'm keen to learn from other people from their different perspectives. Thank you.
My take on this so far, and being in South Africa, literally, and seeing what is happening, and inside information that I'm getting somehow on the ground, and knowing what is really happening. I would just inform you guys so that you are aware and you know what is really happening in South Africa. This revolution when it comes to acquiring of tools, things like money and all that, it started a long time. I think it's 6 years back, where there was a very detailed plan about the heists. They were taking money from all big banks, all people who are transporting money, security companies, all of those things. And then they were floating their people to work in places that are like when it comes to engineering, all of those things. There were so many things. There are so many detailed things that they have done to get to here. And what I'm seeing, I see a group of, when it comes to us South Africans, I see a lot of people who are just looking for opportunity of stealing from white people, all of those stuff. I understand the anger that they are feeling. But at the same time, as soon as this finishes, or they finish stealing, people are going to sit down, all the things that they've stolen, they will finish, their food will finish, their cars will just sit there, they will need fuel. And as we all know that our people have relied so much on tools of white people, so white people are just going to cut the supply. This is ABC. This is the time for people where they are forced to create. I bet, and I'm telling you guys, that the universe was so right. It has been put in this mind and teaching about creating. Let's create our own things. Let's create our own things. What is happening might seem like it's something that is bad, there's violence, there's everything, but we are in the right path. This is a revolution that is also, people sat down and prepared for it. Those who knew, those who are underground, who are talking to each other and who are organized. The reason why it was like this is because the reason why they hide a lot of things that they never spoke to public and other Africans was because they knew very well that we have a lot of betrayers. So everything had to go underground secretly. We've been sent messages that are speaking in Zulu, explaining what is it that is happening. They're gonna ban all the police stations, ban everything that has to do with the government. They're not gonna touch anything in locations where Africans live. They're going to mess up everything that has to do with Caucasians, Eurasians, Europeans, Americans, white people specifically, and other races that we know what is it that they are doing to us. So it's a very detailed plan. But it's just that the majority of other people who are just normal people, they wouldn't know about these things because they were hidden away from them. So, but me, I see an opportunity. I see an opportunity of us teaching Africans about creativity, the energy that they have to create. Because, you know, there's a say, it's just a say that we go hearing others say. They will tell you that before comes the light, there will be darkness. So things are gonna be tough. But in this situation where things are tough, it's when pioneers, people who will build things, our creation energies, Africans our willingness to create will grow. Well, sorry. So what is happening is that we are in the right path, and I would like to just inform my people of Organic Paradigmship that what is happening, we must just send a lot of positive energy in this time of what is happening in South Africa, so that our people, they think more positively into the things that they are doing. Like I was looking at everything that they were looting. I said this looting could be organized. It could be a looting that is organized, that you people are going to take TVs, others are going to take fridges, others are going to take what. We're going to start our economy, we're going to sell. We're going to make things work here. We're not going to sit and wait for white people. We're just going to start our local economy and let it grow and start creating things. You know, so it's very bad, guys, and I think that it's still gonna go too much worse than here. What is happening at this moment? What is happening at this moment is the start. You know, the start. There are bombs that are planted from the pipelines that are taking fuel from Gauteng to Durban to Mozambique. Even what is happening in South Africa right now is happening in Mozambique. They never encountered. They have started, they are fighting, they say they want Zuma to be out. And Zuma is the South African former president, but these people, so it means that there's a unity somehow that I'm seeing about Africans. That they can come together to defend one of their own. And it has went to a serious extent today if you are seeing it happening in Mozambique. So this is a time where we should be preaching a lot of lectures that has to do with unity. A lot of lectures that has to do with creation energy. Our people need to learn this. They need to know. Me, I see opportunities. I don't see what other people they are saying that hey, it's bad, it's gonna be bad, because there are a lot of people who are really relying on white people's life. That tells you, hey, it's gonna be bad. White people are gonna go. They're gonna take their things, their businesses. You're not gonna have jobs anymore. I said, this is when you guys are gonna have to use your creation energy. This is the time to create. This is our time now. We've been sitting and enjoying other people's other racist things that they have created for themselves and also force them upon us so that they can control our lives and control our everything. So I would just like to say, guys, I think that South Africa is in the right path, but needs to be nudged a little bit into a proper direction of saying that even if they are fighting and they are taking everything from white people, they should try by all means that from now on they create. With what they have taken, they should start shops. The economy must start to be viable. By the time government or whoever who's new revolution, it has been successful, we have a new whatever leaders, they get us while we are already moving, because this is what I've studied really about white people in my life. White people, they never wait for anybody. If they want the street, they talk out their money, their resources, they build the street. Government finds them already halfway. So that's what we're supposed to do as Africans, And this issue of us relying on government for everything as Africans, it's so bad. And we are taught this thing really by these people, by donations that they give us from US, all of those things. They make us, what can I say? They paralyze us with the help that they give us, but it's not help, it's something that is bad for us because it paralyzes us, makes us not to do anything and just sit there and be lazy and want free things and say government is going to get things for us, government this, government that, government this, So, in a nutshell, overall of everything, I can say that what is happening in South Africa is very positive, and we just need to make sure that we direct positive energy into this and creation energy into our people at the same time, so that they can be positive and creative at the same time, and not be destructive. Because still, yes, we are not messing up anything in location, but we spend all of our time in town, Most of the time, Africans are in town all the time. It's either he's working or he's selling in town or he's doing something in town. So, we will need these things. It's time we build our own towns for ourselves. It's time we build our own businesses, fend everything for ourselves, It is so bad, guys. It's so bad that anybody has allowance of just going into a sales shop for cars and check keys and check a BM today. So some of us, we are looking at this, we are saying, hey, I don't have time for this. What I have time for is to teach the very same people that are busy stealing and taking, and try to push them in the right direction, where the things that they are stealing and the things that they are doing at this moment, they're going to be able to be productive for them and be positive in their lives. So yeah, that's what is happening so far, and that's my say or my take on this issue of what is happening in South Africa, and entirely about Africans generally. Every time anything like this it happens, as it already started in South Africa now, we should push our people for positivity and creation energy. It's one of the things, because we are angry. When we are angry, you have energy. You just have this lot of energy when you are angry. You fight. So when you fight, that energy, if you turn it into positivity, that energy, I'm telling you, you will achieve big things. Let me tell you, how do I know this? I will share something very personal a little bit. I was somebody who had anger so much about it that my father passed when I was young. So I used to tell everybody, and I used to be this person who doesn't want friends who have fathers, because they would tell me about their fathers and their father's stories, and my father did me, and father did. So I didn't like that. So until I decided, or I grew up somehow in life. So I'm back. I can give somebody some time to talk and come back to finish what I was saying, because this brother has just made me to forget things. There was something important that I wanted to say.
Okay, just mute your mic for now, then we will come back and finish your story.
Alright.
Okay, so from what Brother Kabbalah said about vision being, that people after oppression, dealing with oppression, they are going to get to that point of the anger, and when they get to that point of the anger, is the vision that's supposed to guide a revolution. So the mobocracy, that's what he call it, mobocracy or something like that, where the mob rule is basically just a venting session happening. People are destroying, and then revolution with something that should have a vision, and the vision should guide it. And Sister Yancy Abuka said the exact same thing, just in her own way. And then our brother here said the same thing. He said they should use creation energy, which is this is what you have here. You have three different Africans saying the same thing, but they're saying it in different ways. And the key formula is for us to be able to understand. The formula here is not for us to go with knowledge, what we know. The formula is for us to go with understanding. There is a difference between knowledge and understanding, right? Understanding, it means that you are grasping it, you are putting it into practical application, meaning you are particularizing something. Knowledge means that you are gathering the information and cross-matching it against existing information that you already know. So if you're a person who have read many books, right, and someone says something, if you have knowledge, that means that person will say something. You can cross-reference every word that person said against the book, the existing context of that thing. And if you can do that, you're going to mostly say, oh, well, I disagree with this person because, that person didn't quote the stuff right. No, that's knowledge. Understanding is different. Understanding, the meaning is you're able to particularize every dimension of what is being said, and you're able to formulate the common structure out of all of it. So Brother Kabbalah said it one way, Sister Yancy Abuka said it one way, Brother Olubi said it one way. But overall, you got the same thing about what a revolution is. He called it creation energy. Our sister called it building the institutions and things, and all that, and Brother Kabbalah said it's a vision. So my understanding of mob rule is the same thing. Mob or rioting is basically the spark. Riot is always the spark, but when you light a lighter, or you get a spark, right? Get a spark, then you get a fire. Now the goal is for that fire to continue to burn, and it's not for the fire to flicker up and down or for it to die out, but it's rather to keep the fire steady. So there are certain ingredients that you have to put into that fire to keep the fire steady. You have to create the temperature, you have to create the environment, the oxygen, the material that are going to be serve as fuel for that. Now, Africa so far, we've had a lot of riots. We have been a people of many right?
L'enfant va arriver.
And we have very few revolutions, as according to the brother, because the vision is often one thing, but then we don't know how to. So we have a vision. Many people can say we've had visions. There's never been a time where Africans have never had a vision. There's always been a time Africans had a vision. Marcus Garvey had a vision for Africa. Who else had a vision? Nkrumah had a vision. Not just Nkrumah, but Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Malcolm X had a vision. So visions are basically, the direction that they want these people to go towards. Martin Luther King had a vision. Everybody can have a vision, right? What is missing is everybody has knowledge, but so few people have understanding. You see, when we have knowledge, we cross-reference what is already in existence. So we go by what is already contextual, what is already written down. We cross-reference it by what is already written down. So we seldom understand what other people are saying in a revolution, or we seldom are able to accomplish a revolution in tangible physical reality, or we create a subpar revolution because we have knowledge, and we are confident in knowledge that when we go create a revolution, we end up with a subpar revolution. But if you have understanding, I believe with understanding you can create an actual, tangible revolution that is perpetuated when there is understanding. And what is understanding? Understanding is being able to find a common formula in every perspective. And the common formula in every perspective, if you look at a diverse society, the common formula in every perspective is often the social, the spiritual, the political, intellectual, and the economical. And people have when it comes to economics, people want the standard, meaning that they want the basic, I would say, like they want food, they want a house, they want to be able to take vacation at least once a year, they want to be able to purchase a car, afford a car, they want to be able to put their children into a higher institution of learning, and that, I think, when a person can accomplish that, spend at least 2 days at home with their family, and then come home after working a particular set of hours, meaning that you work a 7-hour day, you come home and you spend every 2 hours with your family. And when this is what is basic or desire of all people, pretty much, in society, who have that modicum of success. So when you have a vision, and the vision is rooted in knowledge, when we have many knowledgeable people, right? Right, what you produce is, you produce a mediocre revolution. Now, if we are talking about producing a true revolution, the true revolution is that which is based is rooted, its foundation is rooted in understanding the people. It's rooted in that, in understanding the people and guiding the people towards that future. The brother talks about vision. Now let's talk about vision. Now, economics cannot be vision, right? Because if you have an economic vision, you also have to have environmental challenges. And economics is numbers. Numbers, they fluctuate. They go up, they go down. If you are a counter, if you are one who counts your numbers, the amount of money you make today, you might make less money tomorrow. And if there is a storm, you might even make no money. If there's a riot or any condition in the environment, you might just go straight up broke for 3 months. There was a pandemic. Many people lost their businesses in my city. Many people went bankrupt because of the pandemic. There was even a riot for Black Lives Matter protests. many people were bankrupt. So economics really, it's a thing that fluctuates because it's number based. Numbers that fluctuate. You know, they say numbers don't lie, but numbers do fluctuate. That's what people need to understand. Numbers do fluctuate. They might not lie, but they fluctuate. So if the person who is telling you they don't lie, but they don't understand that number fluctuates, then they're going to be mistaken. So economics itself fluctuates. Now, a people's politics. What is politics? Politics is, you know, according, if you go to the Western context, it says it's a governing body where people come there and they represent the collective. You know, they talk, they speak on the democratic process, the laws, and all these types of stuff. It's a science. It's called a science. Politics is considered a science. That's why they call it political science, where people argue different perspectives, right? And, you know, it's a democratic process so that people argue different perspectives. It's a science or understanding a society, how organization and society runs. That's how the Westerners define politics. But if I were to define politics from an understanding and not from knowledge, you know, if I were to define politics from understanding rather than knowledge, right? Let's discard the existing knowledge and let's define politics from understanding. Politics is simply a negotiation of your needs and your wants, your ability to negotiate your needs and your wants. And what is the primary key of being a negotiator? The primary thing of being a negotiator is for you to be able to articulate the needs and the wants, and for you to be able to understand the opponent's needs and wants. So if you were at a negotiation, hostage negotiation, the person holding the hostages would tell you what they want. They will articulate their needs and wants. I want a car, I want a helicopter to take me out of here, I want an island where I can go and, you know, the police not to follow. The person has articulated. Then you, the negotiator, you have to articulate your wants and your needs as well. That is politics. That is the definition of politics. Because at the end of the day, both parties are going to walk away either satisfied or both parties are going to have a shootout. The police is going to take out the guy and the hostages could die. Right? That's how politics is. It's a negotiation of your needs and your wants. Right? Now, the key ability you need to have is one, to articulate. But the other is you need to know your need in contrast to the changes in your environment. You know, now if you have a micro need, if your need is just food, right? If your need is just clothes and shelter, that's a limited need. Meaning someone with money can fulfill your needs if your needs are limited. So the United States prints money. They have a lot of money. They can print money anytime. Now you come to the African continent, they ask the African continent, what is your need and want? And majority of the things that we Africans say we want, we need, is always something that can be bought with paper money. And, you know, we want food, food can be bought with paper money. We want clothes, clothes can be bought with paper money. We want education, education can be bought with paper money. We want roads, roads can be bought with paper money. Everything we desire as Africans can be bought with paper money. And these people have the ability to print paper money. So they print the money, we use the money, right? So our revolution is always built around our wants and our needs, but our needs and our wants are always needs and wants that can be bought by other people. They're always needs and wants that can be funded by other people. That if you look at if their wealth, the context of their wealth, these people possess the ability to print money and give it to us. And then we take that money and we order from Iceland fish. We order fish from Iceland. We order tomato from Bulgaria or someplace. You know, we order chicken eggs from France. You know, and we are purchasing food with the money they just gave us. So technically we have access to food. We have access to alcohol. We have access to all these type of things. But the fundamental need and want that we don't have access to, right, is longevity. We don't have access to perpetuating. Remember, creating that fire and giving that fire sustainability. putting that fire in equilibrium with its environment for that fire to grow, for that fire to develop. We don't possess that in our revolution as Africans. Typically, our revolutions always come down to economical, political, and and those type of things. But what I want to say is that true revolution, in order for Africa to diverge is Africa's future from the Eurasian future, is Africa must have a 5-dimensional revolution. A 5-dimensional revolution. Now, most people say, well, spiritual revolution is impossible because people have different ideologies. That is true, but people don't have different physical, tangible reality. The rain wets everybody. Everybody can understand that the rain wets you. You stand under the rain. No one stands over the rain on this planet. Everyone stands under the rain. That is something that is absolutely true. Everyone goes to the restroom to defecate. No one can say, I've never defecated in my life. No one can say, I've never been thirsty in my life. No one says, I've never aged a day in my life. That is not true. So reality supersedes all of us, right? Reality supersedes all of us, whether we might like it or we might not like it. Whether we might have an ideology in our head or whatever we might have, it does not matter. What matters is our reality. Reality is spirituality. Those who can exist in reality, who can operate in reality, have the spirituality. Because the essence of life is for us to live in reality, for us to be parallel to reality. One of the parallels of reality is for you to know that you need sustainability. You need sustainability, you need longevity if you are going to be parallel to reality. That means that every action, every emotion you feel, everything you feel, right, it has to be factored into the environment. Not just the micro environment which you live in, but it has to be factored into global environment. Might you need to wage war? Might you need to defend yourself? Might you need to protect yourself? All those things are based in reality. Those are not theologies or ideologies. Protecting and defending yourself, those are reality. On this planet, all creatures must protect and defend themselves. All creatures must teach their offspring the skills, the abilities to survive the environment and navigate the environment. But overall, all creatures must give their children a purpose and a destiny, right, for which they should travel towards. Now, if we look at the African collective, we have been having visions for political reformation, political transformation, political revolution, which is good, right? We say we want political transformation. We get it. We want independence. We get it. Now we have independence. Now we come to the negotiation table. We are negotiating based on our needs and wants. What are our needs and wants? We want clothes, we want food, we want this and we want that. So, and the other person has the ability to give us what we want and what we need. But if you ask the European, what do you want and what do you need? Ask him, what do you want? What do you need? And he said, I want power. What kind of power do you want? I want the power to sleep with your wife, your children, if I have to. I want the power to kill them if I have to. I want the power to evict you off your land. I want the power to go into your earth and do whatever I please. I want the power to sell, make you my customer and so I want the power to enslave you. I want the power to tell you what sexual orientation you are. I want the power to you to submit to me, you to do whatever I tell you to do. I want the power to travel the stars. I want the power to name all the planets. I want the power to name all the animals. I want the power to go to the bottom of the ocean, to the deep dark of the ocean. I want the power to do that. I want the power to become God. That is what that is his need and want, his ability to negotiate. So you as an African, you being able to give the European what he wants, that you have to give everything, your very existence on planet Earth, you have to forfeit it so that he can achieve his politics, his negotiation, his needs and wants, his negotiation. And you as an African, your needs are met under his system. But you're disgruntled because you don't understand that your needs and your wants are so limited. They are rooted in such an insignificant particle in comparison to his needs and wants. So that's an unfair negotiation. That is a politics that does not it's two politics that are incompatible. Now, if the African people say, well, our purpose and our destiny is to govern this planet Earth. Our purpose and our destiny is to seal off the Congo from all foreigners. No foreigner can extract minerals out of the Congo anymore, right? If the African people say our purpose and our destiny was to regrow our vegetation in the Sahara Desert, right? And if the African people say our purpose and our destiny was to perfect civilization on Earth and take that civilization to Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and put the plants and the animals on every planet in this galaxy. What if the African people were saying that was their purpose for living there? That was their vision, what the brother called vision, what the sister called institution. If the institution was built around these values, and if the brother said creation energy and positive energy, right? Teaching the African creation energy. If African were taught to create with this image in mind, this pathway, that we seal off the Congo from all foreigners and make the Congo our sacred land where no foreigners can step foot in until the end of time. If we decided to regrow the entire Sahara Desert and make it into vegetable land and bring people to settle there and people can live and the animals can live in harmony with us, if we decided to keep our ancestors, right, the ancestors that connect all of us, the first ancestors that walked the earth that we all come from, if we decided to keep those ancestors, to connect, all of us should connect to those ancestors. If we all decided, well, we know that we didn't create ourselves, so let's just say the universe created us, and then individually we can say, we can call the universe different names, but the overall understanding is that we have to look at the tangible reality. What is the source of life and death on this planet, right? We have to look at that, be practical in reality. So, if we can think in those type of terms, where we know what is the physical source of life and death on this planet Earth, what all human beings are constituted of, what energy governs all human beings, if we can understand that in the tangible physical reality, then we can understand our goals, what we want to accomplish in the tangible physical reality as a collective, right? And that understanding can be fed into every single African individual group, right? So everything we build it with a sustainable consciousness. Everything we do it with a sustainable consciousness. The consciousness is to make this thing sustainable, to make this thing long term, because you're not going to go and plant vegetation in the Sahara Desert overnight. You're not going to be able to go to space and put life on other planets overnight. You're not going to be able to seal off the Congo from Western influence overnight. You're not going to be able to rename all the cities and streets in the old African tradition and remove all the foreign influence from the African languages and institutions. You're not going to be able to do that so overnight. It's something that you have to continuously read, reflect, refine, build rapport, reciprocity, and have a continuous transformation and revolution every generation, perpetually refining themselves for them to achieve that goal, that vision, like the brother said, for them to build those institutions that sustain that vision, that goal, and for them to use their creation energy for them to achieve that. So, I'm going to be ending here shortly in 1 second here. Please bear with me. What I'm saying is that we agree what we have as Africans is knowledge. But what we need as Africans is understanding. Understanding gives you the ability to pull from every knowledge out there and create something that is 360 dimensional. So, when we talk about true revolution and diverging Africa's future, I'm talking about 360 dimension of divergence. Now, if you go to the negotiation table with a European, I mean, your vision is so massive, your dreams are so, your vision is so massive, your purpose and destiny is so massive. When you sit across him to negotiate, no amount of money he prints can build your vision. Nothing he do can build your vision. He can control you. He can he can rule your institutions. All he can do is maybe there isn't anything he can do. He becomes powerless when you have a vision that rivals his, because he wants to become a god of this universe. And every negotiation he makes, everything he does is for him to propel him towards godhood. And you, as an African, you have a small vision. Politics, economics, these things, numbers fluctuate. You know, economics can go even in the West. The airlines lost billions of dollars just because of COVID. So economics can change. Politics is unique because politics, you become more efficient in politics, stronger in politics. The greater your need and your want is, the greater your ability to negotiate. The smaller your needs and wants are, the smaller you negotiate. So, you know, some people hold people hostage, and then when the negotiator comes, they say, I want a pizza. Then the negotiator says, okay, great. This person doesn't have a helicopter in mind. You know, the negotiator says, you sure you don't want a helicopter? He said, no, I want a pizza, and I'll let the hostage go. This is you have to think like this. This is why Africans have to be careful. When we say we want revolution, revolution is a package. It's spiritual, social, economical, political, and intellectual, but not by what you know, what the knowledge that you know already, but by the understanding of all that is in the society, all the 360 dimensions of existence. When you can understand them, you create something, a vision that cannot be killed, a vision where it takes you millions of years into the future. Every generation can pick that vision. So I'm going to stop and give Brother Kabbalah the chance. I think Brother Nelson is in the audience. He raised his hand. I invited him, but he's not. I don't know if he's been able to enter, but we'll leave him there for now until he's ready. Brother Kabbalah, please, give us your thoughts on everything I've said. This meeting, we can end it in like 30 minutes or 15 minutes, so please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Indeed, just want to also mention that I'm going to have to excuse myself to step down in the next 3 minutes or so, because I have to attend something else. You have well spoken. Understanding is the key. I can also add to that wisdom, which is actually the application of the learned knowledge. Knowledge itself is not enough. I do agree with that 100%. And most of what we think we know is just the potential knowledge. For example, people used to say that knowledge is the power. However, knowledge is not a power when you think about it properly, because, many people know what to do in order to lose weight. For example, many people die with obesity even though they knew something about how to solve that. Many people know the danger of driving and texting at the same time, but many people get to be involved in accidents while they were driving and texting. So the knowledge is not really enough. Only when you get to that point of applying the knowledge, which is actually, wisdom. And in your explanation, you've mentioned, understanding. I do 100% support that. I think that's a way we weekend. If you understand, I've recently developed a concept that I've said I've coined in a way that every environment or every universe, every people live in a universe, and every universe is a language that it uses to communicate with its people, and that language is the culture. So for you to understand, because everything that we need comes from our universe, and for you to understand what your universe has for you, and to even receive wisdom from your universe, you need to speak the language of your universe. So that means the key to that understanding of 360 degrees or dimensions is actually the culture. People cannot have that understanding if they are not actually connected culturally to their environment, which they are supposed to understand in order to solve their problems. So that being said, I just want to also say something quickly about vision. You mentioned that in the past, even in the past, whatever that happens, even in Africa, people always have the vision. Okay, I understand that might be true as well, but I think there should be a difference between vision and ambition. You see, when you have ambition, you want to become like. You see, but when you have a vision, you want to. You don't want to become like, but you want to be. You see, that's the difference. So most of times, in Africa, we have had lots of ambition. For example, if you are a French colony, you want to develop yourself, you can call it a vision, but it's just an ambition to become like France, because you want to develop yourself as a France. That's the reason why I remember at high school, we used to be beaten because we couldn't speak French. We didn't want to speak French. We were speaking, Lingala or some Congolese languages. Therefore, we were beaten, in order to force us to speak French. And I spent 12 years of my life, high school like that, being beaten, punished every time that I spoke a local language. That was a program instructed by the government to get us speaking, French, to become a little French people. So you cannot call that as a vision, as a national vision of education. No, that's a national ambition to accommodate yourself to French culture and French traditions. So in most cases, this has been happening for us. Even today, whatever that can happen in terms of social change in Africa, if we don't pay attention, it will be only ambition to become like China, like Singapore, or like other nations that have developed. But Africa is unique. Africa, it's incomparable to other nations. Whether you talk about resources, whether you talk about spirituality, whether you talk about in all dimensions, Africa is unique. And therefore, Africa cannot develop itself with ambitions. We must have a vision. And the vision is something that is unique, because a vision, it starts with an idea or imagination of any future that is not really built on the standards of other people, but built on your own perceptions of life, what you want to be, what you want to become. And as far as I'm concerned, I've never had any African leader who had a vision except ambition. For, Marcus Garvey had a vision indeed. And I think if we have to talk in the past, as you said, Kwame Nkrumah had a vision, Marcus Garvey had a vision. I think, as I said earlier on, people were also ignorant. Because for a vision to succeed, it must be carried by the people, not by the leader. You see? It must be carried by the people, not by the leader alone. So therefore, during that time, many people relied on the leaders, to provide solutions to whatever people were facing as a problem. People wanted leader to be that Superman who does everything, but it doesn't work like that. That's why when the leader gets shut down, the movement also fades away, and the people begin to look for another leader. However, if we want to succeed today, on top of everything that you've said, I think we must make a difference between vision and ambition, and we must make sure that the people at the grassroots are the carriers of whatever it is, the vision that we have for the change. Thank you.
right? And that's what I'm saying. Purpose and destiny is vision. Basically, vision, purpose, and vision and destiny are the same thing. As he said, we as Africans, that's why when we use the word purpose meaning what drives you forward, what moves you, what makes you restless. That's purpose. And destiny is where you are going, what the uncontrollable urge that which the destination that you hope to see yourself, that what he called the vision. So purpose, it drives you, it propels you towards what you see. So that's why purpose and destiny is used. We use it the way we use it. Now, this conversation here, we will end it for today, but I'm gonna let you guys give your finishing thoughts and then we will end it. But I just wanted to say that when we talk about revolution and diverging the future of the African people from the current world future, it really comes down to the two different things for Africans understanding that when we have understanding, we can have practical application of thought, speech, and action. When we have knowledge, we might have thought and speech, but we never can manifest action because knowledge itself, it depends on your ability. You need a purpose, you need a drive, you need something to motivate you to be able to use that knowledge in a practical setting. If you don't have that thing that motivates you and drives you, then that knowledge is pretty much useless. Like the brother said, you can die, you can know how to lose weight, but you can choose not to lose weight. You can know how to do certain things, but you can choose not to do that thing. Because why? Because there's no purpose. You don't feel that you have a purpose. You don't have that overwhelming urge that propels you forward, that pushes you to overcome whatever feeling of anxiety or inertia you might have. A purpose helps you overcome your inertia. Understanding is what solidifies your purpose and your destiny inside of your mind. Understanding is what gives us commonality amongst ourselves and each other. Understanding is everything that helps us. And what we have is, when we talk about knowledge is information. Many people can acquire information, but to disperse that information and practically implement and use that information, it requires understanding. Understanding is going to show you how to build things, right? That's why true revolution begins understanding what people are saying. You can have three different people say things. You don't have the ability to understand and pull out the commonalities of what they're saying and unify that thing into a common purpose, and that can propel them forward. It's going to be very difficult for you to have that revolution, that true revolution. You're always going to have a half-baked revolution or a revolution that needs to occur every 50 or 60 years or so, or 100 years. So I'm going to, that will be my closing thoughts. You guys want to give your closing thoughts, then we will end this session. And then I'll schedule another one again, and then hopefully we'll do it again. Alright? Sister Yancy Aboka, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to say that all that we've talked about, we all agree that the grassroots, as the brothers say, like the people who have, like the majority at the bottom, are the ones who have those energies to drive those things forward. So it's like when we focus to give knowledge to this population at the bottom and empower them and equip them with what they need, then all these vision and the purpose and destiny can be realized. Because a majority of the time when we find ourselves at the bottom, what we think is that, how am I able to pay my rent? Am I able to eat? Am I able to wear clothes? Just as you say, like we negotiate like our whole life. We we think that once we get all these things like food, raiment, shelter, that is it. But when our eyes are opened to see the bigger picture, that we are not just by ourselves. We are part of the universe. We are part of the galaxy. We are part of the global. Therefore, there are things that we can do beyond our community, beyond our family, beyond our country, beyond, our continent, beyond the sky, and all these things. So that gives us a continuum of desiring to know more and more. Because if you only have one limited perception, and your thought process, your speech process, and your action process is only centered on that one thing, and that one thing is not changed, it's just set there. You only need to reference on just that one thing, then we become useless for ourselves, our community, and the collective as a whole. And I think that is what they say, 90% of our brain is not being put in use, because we only focus on those things that we just the ones, as you say, just the things that money can buy. But if we have something that goes beyond, the global, then nobody can be able to offer us money and say, oh, this is what you need. And I think having those visions beyond our limited areas, then it actually can empower our brain memories, or our brain to desire to expand, so that we can acquire that knowledge that needs to take us to another level. So I appreciate all of you. And my take on this is that the people, the majority at the bottom, they need this knowledge. They need, they need to be taught what is the vision. They need to be told, this is where we started and this is where we need to be, regardless of what other people think about us. This is our purpose and destiny. Our purpose and destiny is not like any other people. So other people, they have their own purpose and destiny. So we should stop comparing ourselves with other races in the world, thinking that we are the same. Their purpose and destiny is ours, and our purpose and destiny is theirs. That's a lie that we've been living under. And this is a good conversation. I really appreciate it.
Everyone who comes in peace is always welcome, positive and creation energy family. I haven't really understood Clubhouse so much because I haven't used it for long, and since I came late into the meeting, I kind of wanted to be a listener. So when you were inviting me, I thought that immediately I'm accepting to be a speaker. I had to make a statement. So I was just coming in at a time, and I wanted to actually get the perspective of the conversation before I was able to kind of contribute something. About, revolution knowledge, there was actually a debate on TV. There is a channel here. So there was this debate on TV about getting the new Africa, new united Africa. How are we going to go about that? And a lot of speakers, they were contributing. And I want to talk on this, on knowledge actually, because most of what they were contributing, they had knowledge about, and they believed that this is how Africa was going to transform, or this revolution was going to come about to bring about the unification of the African continent. And when I was listening to the speakers talk, what I heard them talk was this, they were talking about this revolution of and subsequent unification of Africa based on what happened in the Americas, based on what happened in China. And from my own understanding, a revolution actually comes about from you understanding your uniqueness, your own values, your own culture, from you understanding your own self as a person, and not actually comparing to another person's own revolution, how it went, you know. So this brings me again to this idea of knowledge. You know, knowledge. What do you actually know? When we talk about knowledge, the question now becomes, what do you actually know? Is it true knowledge? Is it false knowledge? Is it an illusion? And I just wanted to corroborate what Brother Manik was talking about, having an understanding. There are a lot of Africans today. I actually had a long talk with a brother today, and he was talking from his perspective of knowledge, of what he knows. And he refused to get my understanding because he thought that the understanding I was trying to give him was based on something this knowledge we are talking about. But he is having this knowledge of something. And this is knowledge that most Africans have cracked, and that has actually kept us away from this transformation and, the revolution that we actually need. So, my concluding statement here is just to say that a lot of us in Africa, or a lot of us Africans, we need to get out of this knowledge that we have about many things. We have a lot of knowledge about many things, but we need to be ready to get into an understanding that will lead us through the transformation and the revolution that we need in every dimension to be able to unify, unify at all levels. Thank you very much.
Brother Malubi, do you want to finish up with a closing statement?
Yes. What I could just say in my closing statement is that as I'm seeing this type of revolution which has already started, our work is becoming a lot, but more easier at the same time, because the more people they revolt against government, it means that they can give an ear to another alternative or other options, So when I look at all evolution that is happening, I say to myself, on Organic African Paradigm Shift, we have a chance. We have a chance, and we should push every day with the full force. Give it our all, more especially on the SADC region at this moment. By teaching our people, let's concentrate on them, let's teach them. Let's teach them. This is a very vital time. As we are already seeing what is it that is happening, it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for Organic African Paradigm Shift. That's what is important. For the message to spread, to give hope to people, to build their minds back again, to remove inorganic paradigm in them, to remove everything that is unnatural to them. An Organic African Paradigm Shift, the lectures are the only thing that can help Africans to do this. I saw this during lockdown. When lockdown started before, first time when they experienced lockdown. It opened many people's minds. It made people to be aware, because now they were just sitting and bored. person would look at one thing for the whole day. So now their mind started to wake. So this is where as we fit in organic African paradigm shifts, we have, to me, this is a breakthrough. The universe is telling me that this is a breakthrough. This is your chance. You guys grab it. Make sure you spread the message. Make sure that all the people that are busy running up and down the government, they have something that they are already having, that they already having faith and understanding that it's something that's going to work for them. It's an intelligence that will unite them. It's intelligence that will put them back to the place where they were. You know, not even to say that it's just going to bring them to normal status quo that we know of Africans being sold this fake democracy or this useless thing that they give us. You know, so I see opportunity. I see time for us as organic African paradigm shift. I don't know. From all this meeting, I think maybe it's Brother Manik, it's me, Sister Dese, and Sister Nelson, and other Father Kabbalah. I know there are other members of Organic African Paradigm Shift, and I know that the fire that is in each of us can really spread fast. You know, so I have hope and faith and belief, and I see literally, and my dreams, when I'm planning and seeing everything, I see that we have a shot, we have a chance. You know, it's up to us to grab it. So the one who comes in, she's always welcome. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you, Sister Yancy Aboka. Thank you, Brother Nelson. This was a good conversation. True revolution, diverging Africa's future. This was a good conversation. We'll even share the audio with ACOP. I believe Sister Yancy Aboka will give us the audio. We'll share it with ACOP so that ACOP can, they can listen to it and get a sense. But the takeaway from here was everybody agrees that grassroots people need the knowledge. That's what all of us came to. It was not about how one person said it or which direction they said it. The understanding was grassroots Africans need the vision. It needs to be rooted in all of them. Whatever revolution that we create, whatever revolution that we do, it needs to be based on our lens of the future, what we want, our ability to negotiate our wants and our needs. And we need to have wants and needs that other people cannot fulfill, but only us can fulfill those needs and wants. And we need to be propelled by those needs and wants. Intrinsically, those needs and wants should take us forward into the universe, not just in our micro environment, but in our macro environment. Give us consciousness of all our environments. Whether you be poor, elite, or middle class, you need to have that consciousness. No amount of having a full plate of food or having a full plate of a whole bottle of water, clean water, wearing nice clothes should take you away from the knowledge that all Africans have a purpose and a destiny. And that purpose and destiny is the vision that we all need to propel towards. Doesn't matter if you're an elite or you're at the bottom. The purpose and destiny, all of us must have it embedded in us. It must be wired in our bloodstream, and it must be wired in our children's bloodstream, and it must be wired into their children's bloodstream, their children's bloodstream. Every generation must be able to do greater than the previous generation. To me, that is what true revolution is. True revolution is not about rioting and burning down businesses and all that stuff there. True revolution is about using your creation energy, using your institutions, using your visions, where when leaders die, you have millions of leaders that can take their place. Millions of people who can serve as the symbol of leadership. And when they die, another symbol steps in and take the role. When they die, another symbol steps in and take the role. This should never be about we following one person, and then when that person dies, we are all lost. We've lost too many people who we all followed and they died, and then we felt a sense of loss, and then we felt a sense of confusion, and we felt a sense of inertia that we couldn't move forward. We entered a state of paralysis. So my message to everybody who's going to listen to this audio, share this with the grassroots. Let the grassroots understand. Grassroots are those of us at the bottom of the pyramid. We are not part of the elite. We are at the bottom of the pyramid. So let us all be rooted in the vision. Let the vision be our guide. Let the purpose and destiny of the African people be our guide. Diverging Africa's future from the future of other people is how is our ability to negotiate. That's how we will negotiate our wants and our needs. That's what shapes our politics. That's what gives our politics bite, power, impact. We don't have that ability. What we produce is we produce mediocrity, and people, you know, if our needs and wants can be met by money, those who print money will control us. You know, so that was the chapter 1 of True Revolution, Diverging Africa's Future. We will be doing chapter 2 again. We will set up another discussion, and, you know, hopefully Brother Kabbalah and more other people will show up so we can engage more perspective, and then we will create more questions. I myself will listen to this audio so I can write down some questions that I want us to ask in the next discussion. Okay, so positive energy and creation energy to all of you. The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. Have a good, take care of yourself. I'm gonna talk to you guys all later. Bye.
Bye.
L'enfant avare. L'enfant avare. L'enfant apparu.